I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here.
The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following. File the Council Number 26, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement the HUD 2024 Annual Action Plan for Community Planning and Development Programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Home Emergency Solutions Grants Program for the period beginning January 1st, 2024.
All right. Is anyone here to speak that would like to speak on this? There is no one signed in for it. Any council members want to speak on this? No? Okay. If there is no further business with this, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This public hearing is adjourned. Okay. And we're going to have a public caucus now with Grow America and Car Park for your quarterly report with us. Is it? All right. Whenever you'd like to begin.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Dave, and as you speak, would you just say your name as you go
Sure.
along?
Dave Trevisani, as you mentioned, this is the second quarterly report of Community Development Properties Scranton, which is the operator of the parking system under the concession agreement. We have quite a crowd here today. I want to take just a minute to make some introductions and then turn the presentation over to Jake.
I don't know if you want to just wait a few minutes until they get the PowerPoint up.
We're seeing the screen saver. So we have to switch it out to mirror. So we need to is that the projector? Cancel. Must be executed, and once it's ready.
That was total luck, by the way. Again, thanks again for having us. Our second quarterly report to the council. A few minutes just to introduction. I'll turn it over to Jake for the presentation. You know Jake Ciulla, who's portfolio manager for this parking system, and you know Brendon. Brendon is with Car Park, the new operator for the system. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Matt Wexler. Matt runs our social infrastructure or public-private partnership division, of which this project sits. So Jake officially reports to Matt. Matt will be getting over time more familiar with this asset and be more involved over the next couple of years. But he was in town today, so we wanted to make sure he was here and listened in and met some folks. And Brendon, do you want to introduce?
Yes, this is Steve Hernandez. This is Steve Hernandez with the Car Park, and I'll let him introduce himself really quick.
Good evening. Steve Hernandez, Vice President of Municipal Services for the Car Park. I've been in the parking industry now for approximately 23 years and primarily focused on working with municipalities all across the country. I've worked with cities such as Chicago, Annapolis, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, and dozens of communities on the East Coast, West Coast, and points in between. And I've been involved in this project since Jake and I started talking a little less than a year ago, and have helped the car park through the transition. And I'm here as a support to our operational team on the ground, and certainly to Brendon on a day-to-day basis.
That was good training for you to come to Scranton.
Absolutely, I love it.
All right, we'll jump right into the operation update. starting off with all of our commercial leases. No expiring leases for the rest of this year. We'll face a few going into '25. However, I should mention the storage space over at the Casey Garage continues to be month to month. Talking with that tenant, we were looking at a possible move-out date of September, and we are already talking to a few folks about occupying the space after. Lastly, the former Coliseum space is listed. We finished our vanilla finish beginning of the year. It's on the market, had a few bites, but nothing too substantial at this point. Any questions on leases?
And maybe just to add, this has really been a positive for us, and I think it says a lot about downtown Scranton. We really haven't had a vacancy. The Coliseum space has been vacant, but it really was kind of a disaster up until recently. We invested some money. We were hopeful to attract some tenants, and we're trying to reach out into the community to do so. But I think it says a lot that these spaces have been occupied since we've been here. So it's really been a positive.
Looking at a few of the capital projects that we are working on or have completed recently, the Mifflin Street repaving, something we're working with the city on. We're waiting on the date, but great communication with Eileen and her team. Over at the Medallion, we do have a sewer issue, working to get the proper documents to bid that project out. More updates to follow. Our HVAC system at the Catch-21 restaurants coming end of life. Currently working with a group to size the correct unit. We feel that it may be oversized, where we'll get the professionals in there to give us the right specs. In February, the Medallion garage fire panel went offline, completely crashed, and we were able to get that repaired through Cintas. So we're good there, full coverage. We're looking to power wash the facilities come the fall, seeing how a few things play out. Over at the mall, we are exploring a few options to upgrade the equipment there, try to work in some license plate technology, and see what other avenues we could explore down there.
Yeah, just maybe a shout out to the city. To date, we've been fortunate. We've been able to find the funds to cover some of the, most of these items. Power washing is something that's important to us. It's important to do the preventative maintenance. It's expensive. It's like, I don't know, Jake, $30,000 a garage. So we're trying to stretch that out because we just haven't had the cash flow, but we've been able to continue to do that. And the city, just a shout out to the city that's been really supportive to help us identify some grant sources and some other sources outside of operations that might be available to help pay for some of these. So far so good, nothing major, but we've been able to keep up pretty well.
You have your tenant, Catch-21, their HVAC system has been down a while, and I've been asked about that, and it has been down a while. Do you know an idea of when you're going to do that, and is there funding for that now?
You said it's been down?
It is down, yes.
The report from my maintenance team is it is running. It was down earlier this summer. Our HVAC group came in, got it back up and running. We know it's more of a Band-Aid, but we're looking to replace that next year. We do have funds set aside.
Yeah, and one of the issues is timing. It's just ordering the unit and lead time to try to get the unit in. So it's not as though we're waiting. We know we need to replace it. I don't know if it's, Jake, it's on order, or you're just getting the specs from an engineer currently? Yeah,
we're getting the specs. We've been in touch with the owner of Catch-21. I believe it's the first week of July that he's closed. So we're going to target that in '25 to get the work done.
Next July.
Next July, yeah.
Okay. The heating isn't a problem, but they are having a problem with the air. There's an entire dining room in there that they said they don't have air in. The front one is cooler, that tiny one, and the back there is, but your main dining room, I guess, must be where the bar area is.
Okay, I'll follow up with him, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can get them back there and see. I believe, only because I've worked there when it was a 70s kind of disco place, which was 30 years ago.
You're dating
I do
yourself
know
now.
up in the ceiling there is a unit for that. There are separate units for it
correct.
when I was there. So maybe one of those units is down.
Okay, yeah, I'll follow up.
All right, thank you.
And that's the reason we've really wanted to bring an engineer, because we knew there were multiple units, and if we can be more efficient, tie them together, replace what's there instead of doing patchwork. So we are taking the time to get an engineer in there to do it, make sure we're doing it right.
All right, thank you.
The last item on this list is the Linden Street elevator. We're working on trying to obtain some grants, the block grant, so we'll be chasing after funding there to get that elevator up and running. Any other questions or comments on the capital projects? So an operation update about the car park, if Brendon, you want to touch on the transition.
Yes. So over the last quarter, we've transitioned the project successfully from ABM over to the car park, and we've went through a multitude of things, from obviously changing out or getting rid of the ABM signage, and we also brought in our accounting team to make sure that all the accountants taken care of. From an operational standpoint, we've brought our operation leadership out here, to include myself, Steve, and others, to train up the team to make sure everyone is on board with our process and procedures and customer service standards. And we've also worked with other vendors such as Posture. We've worked with Posture and other vendors, local vendors, to come up with proposed branding change. So we're looking at rebranding the program to Park Scranton. So it's not going to be named the Car Park or anything like that. It's going to be unique to Scranton. So the program will be named Park Scranton. We're going to be looking to get that on the signage throughout the program, and also on the vehicles that we have, and all throughout the program on the website, and so on and so forth. So the program could be looked at as a Scranton program rather than outside vendors program.
Is there going to be an app or a new app associated with that?
So right now, the app is going to remain the same that you have right there, Pango. In the future, there is potential for that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions about the car park?
Yeah, just a comment. We've really been happy with the car park. They really brought a professional team in, and as Brendon pointed out, the transition is now complete. The team is going through training. It's all been positive, and I think with minimal impact to the operation itself. I don't know that you've had any complaints during this transition. These things usually, sometimes they have glitches, but these guys know what they're doing, and it was extremely successful. And if it went seamless and you didn't hear a lot, that's a huge success. So, changing over an accounting system, making sure folks continue to get paid, the operation, it's seamless to the public, and that was our goal, and hopefully we achieved it.
Dave, how are we doing with when we switched? We dropped the rate to $1 an hour in the parking garages as compared to $2 an hour for parking on the street.
Yeah, Jake's going to go through the financials now. We can touch on that.
Oh, great. Okay.
Here, so to start off on the financials, as you can see here, revenue is worse than budget by close to $30,000. The reason for that is when ABM created the budget, which we're working off of, they did a straight line. So we didn't account for any of the ebbs and flows, and we feel strongly that by the end of the year, that is going to level out to what we did budget revenue-wise. Good news here is we are controlling expenses. Car Park's been doing a heck of a job to clean up some of the messes that ABM has left us, but with expenses better than budget by $100,000, leaving us with a operating income of 75. To your question about the rates going down, seemed minimal. I wasn't here when that occurred, but talking with Dave and talking with the local parking team, numbers not as high as we would have liked. But what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years coming out of COVID is volume downtown overall is up about 58% as the end of 23.
So the volume is increased, but because we reduced the rate from $4 to $1, we're not seeing a huge bump on the revenue side. So has there been increased traffic? Yes. Is it translating to huge increases in revenue? No, because we reduced the parking rate 3/4, right, from $4 to $1. Our hope over the long run is that those new parkers or new visitors to downtown, because it's $1 an hour, continues to increase over time. That's sort of that's the goal. So far, we're seeing some positives, but we're going to have to monitor it closely because, expenses, as expenses, everything gets more expensive. We need to manage our expenses, as you can see here. If you want to go back, Jake. You can see here that the revenue is a little off budget. Most of that's due to timing and some of the ABM expenses that were moved into this past year. But we've been able to control expenses as best we can. But, things don't stay the same forever, right? With inflation, things go up. So will we be able to offset that with more traffic? I think that remains to be seen. I think we're optimistic. But, and coupled with this, we're staying close to the city team. We're staying close to our bondholders because I think, as during the pandemic, we really had to had a setback. And we're working with our bondholders. We will probably go back into the market next year. The goal has been to wait till rates come down. If you're following the national news, that rates may come down over next year. So our goal is to try to time that so that when we go into the market with new bonds, we can get the best rate possible, and that we won't have to look to raise rates in the future to pay that payment, down the road. I think we're still monitoring. We have projections through year end that show we're going to meet budget. We have projections for 2025. We've already started those that look like we're going to be at a 1.0 coverage, a little better. We really wanted it to be better than that by now, but I think that's just because we lowered the rates so much. There's more traffic, but I think we're just hoping for more as we go forward. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on it, work with our bondholders for next year.
So you're anticipating more volume to increase revenue?
Correct. And as if you remember, when we changed the rates and lowered the rates 2 years ago now, we agreed to hold those rates to 2026. So next year they'll stay the same. The following year they're planned to go up. I think we'll have a better sense of what this is going to look like after next year. And our goal, of course, is to keep rates as low as possible so that we want more people to come downtown, and we want to make up the revenue with volume. That's the idea. Will we have enough to support a new bond issue next year or the year after? I think that's what we're working on now with our bondholders.
Any other questions, comments on revenue operations? Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
I have a quick question. So the last time you guys were here, I received some complaints prior about, say on the weekend or after 5, that the kiosk or whatever, will still take your money. And it wasn't, and I think we said, is there a mechanism maybe to prevent that? So you said we're increasing volume. That's great. We got a lot of out-of-towners, but I don't want to charge them if it's not necessary. You know what I mean? Because they don't know the lay of the land, or sometimes the times that are required to pay aren't clearly visible to these folks.
Yeah, I agree.
You said you looked into it, so I don't know if you did.
I think we looked into what the screen tells you, and the screen tells you that it's free after a certain hour. But will the machine still take your money? Yes. I don't know that we looked into that, Jake. Did we? Or can we shut that off? I don't really know.
I believe the answer is that they cannot shut it off. But the main screen, when you go to punch in your license plate, says 8 to 5, says the operating hours.
Okay, well, because you guys did say you'd look into something, so at least you did.
It says it on the screen. When you hit the screen, it tells you the hours right there. Now, hopefully people will read. And I don't know that we're talking about a lot, right? That doesn't happen. I mean, it happens for sure. I know I've done it myself when I've traveled in other cities. I don't want to take a chance. I'll just pay.
Right, you're afraid to get a ticket.
But I don't want to get a ticket. So it's not the objective, but if we can look into other options, maybe other signage. I don't know. we can continue to think about it.
Brainstorm it.
Well, I just need an answer to give them. when I'm
Sorry?
asked. I need an answer to give them when I'm asked again. So-
Right, well, we'll look into it. It sounds like we can't shut it off. The screen does give the hours, and we'll talk to Car Park about maybe some other options for other signage
Okay,
to
thanks.
minimize that. I don't know that we're going to be able to get away with it altogether, and maybe it's just continuing to let people know, right? And maybe that's on the website, maybe that's more marketing, maybe these are our hours, so
More
people know.
awareness.
We don't charge, we don't enforce.
And maybe change the numbers or the coloring on the screen, maybe put it up red instead of because it's very difficult to read the black letters if the sun's on.
Right.
But if it's in a red, it's kind of, I'll look at something that's red. Well,
Sure.
I look at it if it's just black
Sure.
letters with that blue.
Sure.
I don't look, I just put the money in and go. But if it comes up red letters at 5 PM,
Sure.
maybe something, and that may be just to be able to put into your system easier than new signage. I don't want to keep putting signs up downtown. I'd rather make something noticeable by bringing your alertness to that.
I just wanted to offer a compliment on the garages. I've always been more of a street parker, but I've found myself over the past few months using the garages a bit more, and I really haven't had any problems, and I've been impressed that they've been clean. I felt safe there, so I was happy to experience that myself. And so I think that's probably
No,
what
we
Scranton's
really
brings it to.
appreciate that, and that goes a long way. A lot of folks don't like garages just because you have to deal with tight spaces, and you got to pull a ticket, and you got to wait for the gate to go up, and you might want to wait. So, agreed. I think we want folks to know that the garages are safe, they are well maintained, they are. Look, nothing's problem free, but it really is a good place to park, and it's inexpensive.
Yeah. I probably would say the only thing would be if I spent a few minutes at my car, like getting my kids back into the car or whatnot, and I already paid, by the time I got down to the exit, I had to pay another small
Oh, is that right?
fee, because I don't know if it was like over the
there's a
15 minutes
there's
before
a
I
great-
exited the
there's a grace
garage after
period,
I
right.
paid.
There's a grace
So,
period, right.
Yeah, that caught me off guard, but yeah, other than that, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dave, it may have been listed on the financials. It's kind of, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, let's put it that way. Where are we at with the fines, as far as fines being paid, the number of fines that have been issued? Is that listed on there?
Recovery revenue, we're at 219 for the year. We not on this spreadsheet, we don't have it where it's how much have we written. I could provide that as a follow-up.
It's 219 for the year. Do we know what it was last year?
I could follow up with you on that one.
I know that we're running about the same, so I think for the year, it's the budget is, well, you'll see on the far right, the budget's 469. So that's pretty close to what the budget was last year, and we're running about the same.
On the parking tickets, do you have it separated into categories for tickets that are given for disabled parking? If people have like the handicap placard, because I'm wondering if the data has shown any improvement or, less tickets having to be given to people since we've had a bit of a change in the signage of people more aware when they're parking in those
that's a good
spots.
question. Jake, we should be able to
So if you
check
can-
that out and look at the
Yeah, if
history.
you're able to get that.
For you
data,
guys,
I'd be interested.
the signage, the pole signage for handicap spaces looked very close to the other pole signage, so it wasn't really identified as a handicap space, and the paint on the street was dulled out, so people didn't know it was a handicap spot. They got a ticket for a handicap spot, so the folks who needed those spots complained because they weren't available, and folks were complaining they're getting tickets because they didn't know. We fixed that. We changed the signage. We painted it. The city painted the striping, and we could get you some data.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's having
But my
an
hope is
impact.
yes.
I hope so too. So, thank you.
I just have one last question, and this came into my mind. There was a gentleman came here, and I don't know if we ever checked the sound decibels for the alarms when the gates go up, so when a car can exit and stuff. Did we ever find out, is there a set decibel level? Is there a normal level, a higher level, or are we right where we're supposed to be?
I believe it was right where we were supposed to be. I'll have to go refresh my memory and talk with.
I remember asking, but I don't remember getting an answer.
But
But
I believe it was right at, we were right where we needed to be. I'll
Okay.
follow up with Suzanne, the GM, to confirm that.
all right.
And that was that alarm that sounds on Mulberry Street. The alarm on
Yeah,
Mulberry Street was the
because
one
the
that we
gate
got
was
some-
up, yeah.
Yeah, is there any way to shut that off or to lower it?
Not that I'm aware of. Let me follow up with that.
Yeah, I think we looked into that because the gate, for you guys, the gate was up, so the alarm went off, and the gate stayed up because it was a malfunction of the internet, and so the alarm just stayed on, and we couldn't shut it off. So the question was, why can't we shut it off? And I think by the time we tried to figure out how, I think it was taken care of, but there should be a way to shut it off manually.
We're good? Anyone else? Good? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you for your
coming.
time.
Thank you, gentlemen.